What's up guys, it's me Deshaun and we're back with another Soul Eater video, and today we'll be discussing how strong Kid is, all of his abilities. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, and watch the video all the way through so you can see all of Kid's forms, see that his soul is as big as the Soul Eater moon, and so much more. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, what gives Kid the edge above every single Meister that goes to DWMA is the fact that he's not actually human. He just has the form of a human. And throughout this story, he chooses to live as one, or more or less made to live as a human, due to Shinigami raising him differently from his brother. Throughout the story, Death orchestrates the paths that multiple characters take through multiple tests, and we see this with Kid. Through Manga and Black Star's remediation classes, it will be the start of the many events that progress him to maturing as a Shinigami and becoming God. Through his own free will, he decides to become a student of DWMA, and this decision would push him into living as a human, allowing him to mature as a god and begin to awaken his lines of Sanzu. Kid would come from the bloodline of gods that Shinra created at the end of Fire Force, being under the race of a Shinigami. As a Shinigami, in comparison to other students, he would be on a completely different level from any other Meister in terms of power, in terms of technique, and in terms of weaponry, because he's one of the very few Meisters who can use more than one weapon at a time, with the ability to use 2 demon weapons. And those demon weapons would be the twin pistols known as the Thompson sisters. As a Shinigami, he would also be able to use the martial arts known as Death God Taijutsu, which consists of multiple different stances, such as the guilty stance, the mad crime stance, the punishment stance, and just those 3. The guilty stance seems more like a skill-based one, the punishment is more of a defensive, and the mad crime is the most offensive. Outside of having access to Death God martial arts, Kid's body can completely repel everything, making him completely immune to poison. It's so bad that Kid can't even dye his hair. Because he has the body of a god, nothing can really affect his soul, as seen when Black Star goes to the infirmary. The uncanny sword mode that he used in the Battle of Brew began to make his soul collapse, and Kid did not suffer from any after effects from the magnetic field during the war. Nigus makes this direct comparison between Black Star and Kid, saying that he's not a god, so he can't push himself beyond the lengths of normal. But in Soul Eater, when you do develop the body of a god or have one, the definition of normal does not apply to you. And what I mean by this is things that are considered normal, things that should happen, wouldn't normally happen to you or your body. And this is something I'd like to bring up because this is a very overlooked aspect in terms of Kid and Black Star's special abilities, even though we're primarily focusing on Kid. So obviously there are things such as being immune to all poisons, everything repelling from you, and being immune to magnetic fields, and obviously having enhanced strength and durability. But it actually runs deeper than that because this power gets progressively stronger throughout the series. It starts off with lower level things like durability, being immune to poison, etc. But with a higher tier god body, you can do things such as fight with a broken spinal cord. You should be paralyzed, but being paralyzed does not apply to you. Snapping your limbs back on, regeneration, your fist having the ability to deflect lasers, and so much more. Throughout the story, we see Kid progress to this. At first, he's immune to poison, and then when he gets his first line of Sanzu, he can snap his limbs back on. And with each line of Sanzu, he gets closer and closer to being a god and having godlike abilities, which allows Kid to do anything he wants. When I say that, I mean it. As a god, there are no limits to his powers because the laws of reality, physics, and the overall universe do not apply to him or his powers. And the first time we see him tap into this power is when he activates his first line of Sanzu against Mosquito. On the brink of death, the power of Brew allows Kid to get his soul wavelength onto the same tier as a young Mosquito. As one of the lines on Kid's head connects, his soul wavelength amplifies, and he regenerates, and is able to take advantage of his godlike powers as they proceed to surge throughout his body. When Kid attacks, there are streaks of Shinigami logos behind his attacks, signifying the use of his Shinigami powers, and it seems as though his senses get sharper as he's able to fight Mosquito and see through all of his attacks. Kid also has the ability to make shields out of his Shinigami powers, but more importantly, in this form, he's able to alter his weapons. Typically, when Kid uses a soul resonance, he uses the death cannon. And as you'd expect, he turns the Thompson sisters into giant cannons on his arms to shoot a devastating attack. But during his first line of Sanzu form, he turns Liz and Patty into Desert Eagles, Death Eagles, developed by the Death Military Industries. And with this, he was able to shoot down 8,000 bats that Mosquito conjured in almost an instant. But unfortunately, during the end of this fight, Mosquito gets one shot by Noah, a evil sorcerer who uses the Book of Abon. And not only this, he captures Kid fairly easily. It's almost as if he one-shots both of them. But as Kid is sealed inside of the Book of Abon, he requires a new form. And this is the first time we see the Mad Crime Stand, because this would be Kid under the madness of power. He receives this blessing from one of the Great Old Ones, or more or less the Elder Gods from the world of Soul Eater. Unfortunately, the Great Old One of Power does not have a name, so we just call him the Great Old One of Power. With this boost in power, he is easily able to match Black Star. And at this point in the series, they would both be equals, until Kid awakens his second line of Sanzu. As I mentioned before, Kid has the death cannons, but during his second line of Sanzu, he gets a new upgraded version of them, where he has floating mechanical coffins that charge up energy for him to make a one-shot kill ability, his parents' 7 rays. This attack shoots rays into the sky, and it absolutely decimates the Horror Dragon and kills Noah in the process. Between the first line of Sanzu and the second, the jump in power is actually staggering. Kid went from getting one shot by Noah to one-shotting Noah in one form change. So with the first line of Sanzu, he alters Liz and Patty's original gun forms and turns them into deagles. And in the second, his cannon turns into floating coffins that can release large amounts of energy. And man, if you don't believe that jump, oh my. When Kid gets his third line of Sanzu, at that point, he is literally just a god. In fact, he actually becomes the new god of the world of Soul Eater. Rather than relying on technology from Death Industries to help him fly or his skateboard, he can do everything by himself. Rather than tapping into the powers of his godhood, like in his other forms, he is simply just a god. And in Soul Eater, godhood is kind of funny, because as a god, you can do anything that you put your mind to. Black Star is capable of doing this, and so is Kid. The size of his soul is so big, it can eclipse the entire moon. But not only this, the pressure from his soul can affect the earth and causes waves, and his pressure alone maintains the order of the world. Similar to Asura and his father. Their mere presence would cause things to happen throughout the world, things that shouldn't ordinarily happen. Shinigami maintains the normality of the world, and Kid, as the new god, has the ability to do the same. In this form, and as a god, a Shinigami, unlike other gods, can not only change the earth and what's happening with the laws and physics of the reality that they all take place in, but they can also affect others. Shinigamis, like Kid and his father, have this ability called the Madness of Order. It's a madness that is so strong that it can eclipse all human emotions and leave only a mechanical cycle of birth and death. What this basically means is the fact that he could control all of the lives of the people that reside in the cosmos that he has jurisdiction over. You would have no free will and you would have no life to live. And with an ability like that, you can do nothing to fight against it. Honestly, this might be the most broken ability in the entire series, and there's nothing that you can do to counter it. I just don't know how to stress this enough that these characters in Soul Eater can do anything. Anything they put their minds to. And Kid, just like Black Star, is no exception to that. But if there's one thing I want to end this video on is the fact that we only see Kid use the Thompson sisters. It only makes me wonder just how strong Kid would be if he were to use one of his death sides. Or if he were to use all of them at once. I hope this video gave you guys a good idea on how strong Kid is. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next Soul Eater video.